Joining us now live, former Republican governor of the People's Republic of Maryland, Bob Ehrlich. Governor, good to have you with us, sir.
Well, how are you? How are you, my friend? How are you?
Never better. It's always good to have you on, sir. We always have a blast.
Always enjoy it.
Now, I was there in New York when you went to Trump Tower and the transition team interviewed you for cabinet position. And then I'm like, well, this guy'd be he'd be great. You know, he'd be good at one of these agency jobs. But I guess you decided to stay in Maryland.
Well, there was no formal interview with regard to that. There was lots of speculation. I think MSNBC ran a report. I was in the position of having to tell my law firm that this is not true. If it was true, I'd tell you. But I was very happy, obviously, to help the president. I was part of the media team and all that. Very happy won the race. Thought it was very important for the country, which is what my new book is about policy, actually. Policy wins, policy turnabouts, policy 180s from the end of Obama to the beginning of Trump. But as for me, there was maybe one or two jobs I'm interested in potentially in the future, but we'll see if that occurs. If not, that's fine as well. But if the right position, if the right opportunity arises, the conversation may take place. If not, I'm happy where I am. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, you're always having fun. You're always happy. I want to get to policy. I want to talk about the president's tax reform package, which is really the cornerstone now of his legislative agenda.
Yeah, sure
I want to get your thoughts on something. I love the principles they laid out. I mean, I went to the press briefing maybe 2 months ago, 60, 70 days ago. They had Secretary Mnuchin there, Gary Cohn. They laid out their principles for tax reform, which
the elements are attractive.
All the elements, repatriation, cut.
Yep.
You know, they explained that the corporate tax code
highest
in America,
in the world,
highest in the world, effective rate 18%. Japan's is 7%. Jobs, I mean, the whole thing.
Yep.
Middle class tax cut, close the loopholes for the fat cats. The whole thing, they laid it out, one page, two sides. So what I expected would happen, so I'm going to get into policy because I know you've got a new book on it. So what I expected to happen is that they would get sponsors in the Senate and the House to write the bill the way they want it and then go and sell the bill the way that Tom Cotton and David Perdue are selling the president's legal immigration and visa reform.
So the old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Not like they did repeal and replace, which is because the way they're doing it now is they have no bill, they have no sponsor, they want to go through regular order, which means all this is going to get negotiated in public, and you lose the high ground of the principled argument, and you start fighting over, is it 7% cut or 10? Why are they doing this?
Holdouts, and with slim margins, holdouts can kill you. Just reference healthcare. So it's frustrating.
Am I right?
At 30,000 feet, I will make one observation, which is true. Although some folks in D.C. had different ideas, tax reform should be easier, he said, than health care reform. You do start with in this case, you do start with some common elements. I've run around the country, particularly during the Obama administration, saying really big things get done in Washington, really big things get done in Washington when both parties have a say. There is some commonalities with Democrats on tax reform. President Obama also recognized, by the way, the corporate income tax as a jobs killer. He understood that. He supported lowering it, believe it or not. Obviously, repatriation is a common element. Potentially an infrastructure deal as part of tax reform is out there to draw Democratic votes. So the recipe's there. The recipe's been there for a long time. What killed us, obviously, during the Obama administration was the president's insistence on additional taxes in exchange for tax reform. Now we have the whole, both chambers and the president. It should get done. Your point is very well taken. I do not disagree with you on the way it's begun. It reminds you of health care.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's what they did with health care. They had no bill. And they said, we're going to go through
secret meetings. And by the way, there has to be secret meetings. We understand that. You have to find out where people are. But you don't see a concerted push You don't see Jim Baker and Dan Rostenkowski and Ronald Reagan and Jack Kemp and Tip O'Neill. The bottom line was that was hard. That was heavy lifting. That took 5 years in the 80s. But it got done. Big time. But it was leadership. It was presidential addresses to the nation. It was Kemp out there being the cheerleader, and I guess Paul Ryan is playing the role of Jack Kemp this time. But I don't see it yet. And we both know that this has to occur, as you said. That was your foundation for your question. It has to occur with regard to the economy and our country first. Very important. It will take the Dow to 25,000 and beyond. Wonderful for middle-class America. But for Republicans, it is absolutely essential given the failure of health care.
Well, there's no question about it. And so what my concern is in letting the process run this through regular order, number one, look, we don't have statesmen like we had back then. I mean, you look at Jack Kemp and Reagan and, even if you didn't like Rostenkowski and Tip O'Neill, you could sit down, you could have a scotch with them, and you could have a conversation. You can't do that now. Those days are gone. We all want to go back to them when it was normal. We can't do it. It's gone.
Let me also add this. And I certainly agree with your points, but one thing can be replicated from that time, which was the presidential leadership. It was the President's Chief of Staff, not just President Reagan, but Jim Baker, going up to Capitol Hill, sitting down and negotiating. It was the President, though, in a series of speeches, making the point. Obviously, Kemp was out there waving the flag, my hero, Jack Kemp, and your hero, and everyone, we love Jack Kemp. But the fact of it is the President had a major role to play, too. President Trump has to understand that. It's not just one speech.
Well, and you look at the White House staff, I mean, frankly, they're not in a position to do that.
They better be.
Well, they're not. I mean, you're not going to get... Look,
you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
Governor, can you imagine General Kelly going to Capitol Hill and trying to sell tax reform? I mean, come on. He's not going to do that. What, Kellyanne Conway, who's going on TV? I mean, those days are gone. So my point is, you've got to operate in the new world, which is TV, media... Gain the argument, gain the advantage.
Certainly understands that.
And the way you do that is you get a bill, you get somebody to sponsor it, and that's what you're selling, and then the compromise goes from there. Instead, it's going to bubble up from...
And what makes me a little... The president understands that with regard to not just, obviously, Twitter, but he has shown that he can piece together a coalition that can win a presidential election against all odds. He's done something more difficult than piece together a coalition in the public realm to create pressure on Congress to actually act.
Well, I think it's the wrong approach. I think
listen, you and I can sit here and agree for the rest of the day with regard to the approach, but it appears to be the approach.
Right, so now we're stuck with it.
We're stuck with it, so let's try to get something out of it. Now, what concerns me and you is the sense that Republicans, given the failure of health care, are going to go down the same road. We're going to be choppy. We're getting close to the end of the year, election year. People will say, oh, geez, we need something. We'll throw something on the board. We'll whatever it is, and we'll do something skinny. Let's do something skinny.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
And you just think that may happen. And then they'll say, and then we'll all go home and we'll declare victory. See, we did something.
Yeah, you're right, Governor. I mean, that is the worst nightmare I have about this, and you can almost see how that's going to play out. But I agree with you on this. I mean, it is what it is. You have to play the hand you're dealt.
You do.
And we got to figure it out.
Too much conversation in politics when I do talk radio or when I do speeches where people go, but let's do this, and life isn't as you want it to be. Life is as it is, and we have very little impact, quite frankly, on the procedural process here. So it is what it is. Let's make the best of it, but let's get something substantive done. This happens every couple decades, an opportunity to achieve fundamental tax reform. Every couple decades it occurs. It's now. Now's the time. I think Paul Ryan understands this, by the way. But I'm not excited yet. I want to be excited. I want to come on your show in 2 months and be very excited.
Well, both of us, yes. I want you to come back so we can be excited instead of Lamenting before the kickoff.
I'm lamenting.
We're lamenting in the pregame show. That's not a good sign.
Well, and we tend to keeping score is important, particularly for an incumbent, obviously, and almost all of the scoreboard on our side so far has been unilateral actions by the president. Well, not so long ago, you, me, all of us were criticizing President Obama for his unilateral actions.
Right.
Now, we like this president's unilateral actions, but the fact of it is, it's not legislation. You need a big winner. You need to show you can lead the country. You need to show together you can put a coalition together to get something done and something big done.
Right. Big.
Big. Not skinny. Big.
Big. Got to go big, not skinny.
Skinny's easy.
Got to go big.
Everybody does skinny.
You're right.
And look, as much as I oppose Dodd-Frank, as much as I oppose stimulus, as much as I oppose Obamacare, God knows I wrote 2 books about it, President Obama went big when he had both chambers.
I want to go big, Governor, not skinny. We got to go big.
And we have to undo the last administration's big. And you don't do that by skinny.
I think we're with the governor here. This is going to be our new mantra for the next 2 weeks. We want to go big, not skinny. Let's go big.
Not skinny.
Obama went big.
Yeah.
Let's go big.
They got it. By the way, bad policy.
Let's go for the win.
Worked out.
They had policy. They went big.
Sold it. By the way,
got it done
on national TV. Yeah, they sold it. They sold stimulus.
They sold it. We don't sell anything.
People bought it. Some people bought it to our detriment, but they bought it.
Yeah, they bought it. It got sold. It got done. It was big.
Jonathan Gruber helped sell Obamacare.
Yep. You're right. I mean, you're spot on. Okay.
Now, see, I come on your show, I get all excited. Now, I'm going to wreck for the rest of the day.
Well, it's exciting, but you're right. But look, we got to play the hand we're dealt. And,
you do. You do.
It's like I said before. It's like going on the pregame show before kickoff and saying, well, are we going to get beat by 3 touchdowns or 4? It's just not a good sign. Okay, we got to go for the win.
Well, what's worse is, we're going to say we're going to win, but we're going to try to win 7-3.
Exactly. I want to win 28-7. Let's get some touchdowns.
I want to win.
All right, tell me about your book.
On them.
Tell me about your book. Your new book.
The book is not just a campaign book. The book is working title. Bet you didn't see that one coming. It's
I like
about
the title.
The end of Obama and the beginning of Trump and what it means for America going forward, particularly not just on the politics and the rhetoric and the Twitter blast. It's about policy. It's about good stuff happening that you may not be reading about, that you're not reading about, but good stuff nonetheless. So I'm pretty excited about it. I have it right in front of me, looking at probably late October, early November publication.
You got to send me a copy?
You got that right.
I got to get one because I read all your books.
And I'm coming on your show, and then we're going to talk about a lot of the good stuff that's happening. Again, maybe in unilateral ways, but nevertheless good, positive, good policy in the right direction for the country. And we'll start with Neil Gorsuch, so we'll go from there.
Is your book available now?
No, it's not. We've gotten one. So we're going to have one bid from. We haven't even finished it yet. We already have a bid from a publisher, incumbent publisher, and we'll be seeing what other interest there is in the marketplace and negotiating. And once that publisher is selected, the manuscript is done. So we're pretty excited about it.
All right, I'm excited. I'm going to look forward to it come out. And we got to get you on like every other week just so I can keep my sanity.
Well,
you can help ground me.
I love coming on the show. It does get me jacked up for the day. I hope your listeners enjoy it. But again, this is a rare opportunity. It's a rare opportunity to again. We're kidding here, but we're not. You don't go skinny when you own everything. You don't own everything much. If you go back over time, you don't have the presidency in both chambers much. You have to take maximum advantage when you do. So far, no good. So far, not a lot of leadership. And again, the president has to spend the time making major speeches, going on national TV, and helping here. It's a team effort. This is a team game. People don't want to hear that sometimes. The president doesn't want to hear it. Members of Congress don't want to hear it. It's a team game. This is from a former congressional whip. It's a team game. You don't get just to trade your uniform. You don't get to be a free agent on a daily basis. It's a team game. You draw a certain uniform. You say, I'm part of that team. I'm going to D.C. I'm going to get something done. When it comes time to cast difficult votes, you do. You can't always be a free agent. You can't always do what you want to do.
You're right. Governor Bob Ehrlich, former governor, Republican, Maryland. We thought he was going to run for president in 2016. I'd have backed Trump anyway. But you would have been my second choice, Bob. I'm
honored by that.
All right, we're going to have you back. Always good to have you, Governor Bob Ehrlich. Thanks for being with us. And by the way, the new picture I saw of you, you look great. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Well, I married a younger woman. You know how that goes.
Ah, yes. Same here. The one I married, that was 30 years ago. But she's younger than me.
24 here, and
keep you on your toes.
Decision ever made, no doubt about it.
All right, Governor, thanks for being with us. I got to roll.
Pal.
Governor Bob Ehrlich, new book coming out. We're going to look forward to that.